Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, it's Jory Rose. Welcome back to this week's episode of Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I'm really excited to finally bring you this conversation I had, which feels like forever ago, with Heather Quisel. COVID and everything that's gone on since kind of put a kink in my interview schedule of when I released episodes. So I've been holding on to this one, and I think now is a great time for you guys to hear it. In this conversation with Heather, she talks about grief, overcoming adversity, resiliency, being an entrepreneur, a mom, finding love after loss. I mean, she's not only inspirational, but motivational as well. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this conversation. If this speaks to you, please share it with friends, give the episode a like, a love, a review, so more people can get the tools to journey forward to a happier, more peaceful, and authentic life where they are living fully and freely. It is possible. So enjoy today's episode. See you guys next week. Be well. Hi, and welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I've been so looking forward to this conversation for quite some time with Heather Quisel. Heather, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you have shared some of your day with us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And I know we were just saying, we've been connected on Facebook for a while, and is the way of social media. I don't know how the connection started, but I've really enjoyed following you and seeing your journey and talking about a journey forward. My goodness, since I've been connected with you, I've seen such a journey. So please share with our listeners, tell us about yourself and however way you want to introduce yourself. I don't want to read a bio. I want you to organically introduce yourself and let everyone know what is your purpose here in the work that you're doing and in your own journey.
Oh, well, thank you. That's sort of a loaded introduction, but
it is, right?
Totally,
I'm a therapist.
Totally.
I just jump right in.
I love that. Psychology people unite. I've been in business for the past 10 years. I got started in network marketing like many moms do. I have a teaching background, and I found myself early in network marketing having great success and building an online, influence and a platform using social media. And those things were really driving much of my business. And in the first few years of network marketing, I started to discover the concept of internet marketing and branding yourself and creating your own programs. And I knew that was a path that I wanted to take. And about 5 years ago, I made a website and got some cute little graphics and all the things and started working on creating the programs that were mine. Teacher's going to teach, right? What's my curriculum? Right. And in network marketing, I had such great success, and I was seeing so many people come in the doors of network marketing. Really excited about the opportunity to, make your own money, create your own hours, grow your own thing. And some were having great success, but many were not. And I couldn't understand that because we all had the same framework, right? We all had the same, here are the steps to come in with no knowledge and to come out with a huge earning potential. And when I started to look at what made me different, that allowed me to accelerate, and I was looking at other successful people in all industries and what made them accelerate, I noticed that there was just there was this gap. Many people took the how-to and did it, but then there were other people that take the how-to and boom sauce it, that more intensely, more disciplined, deeper, and that gap is what I started teaching. And what I find in that gap is it's a lot of understanding your mission. Why are you here on this planet? What can you do to serve other people? It's a whole lot about your mindset. Really, releasing all those beliefs you thought were real and adopting a mindset of forward movement. And it's a lot of messaging. that clear messaging.
And that's huge
drive
because
forward.
those mindsets are so old and so well ingrained and keep us stuck in so many ways. And until we're challenged to really look at them, we don't have a reason to change them until we say, hey, something's not working. So whatever brings you to that space, whether it's I want to make more money, I want to be happy in my relationship, I want to be showing up differently in my parenting, whatever it is, right? That's going to be always that gap of feeling successful. I mean, not always, but I think a big portion of what helps us feel like we're getting to that next step is challenging some of those limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah, for sure. Challenging that paradigm of like everything you always knew. And when network marketing is such a great space it's big on personal development. And I'd never been introduced to this concept of personal development in nonfiction books. What? And I really loved it. Like, I'm a high learner on the strength scale. And boy, when I learned that I could control my mind, when I could change my life simply by changing my thoughts, that was like the greatest challenge I'd ever been faced up against. And I took it and I ran with it. And so now today, I continue to grow that network marketing, what I like to call the cash cow, and my coaching business, my brand online. And that just really gives me the ability to create and teach the things in the zone of genius that I was, given by whatever powers that be here on this planet. And so by way of, journey forward, Jory, things for me were going really well. About 2 years ago, my husband and I we were both owning our own businesses, working from home. We had, 3, growing children, and our marriage was on point. Our businesses were screaming and racing at highest levels. Kids were just awesome and excelling in their lives. And out of nowhere, I got a phone call that my husband didn't show up at the hunting site where he was supposed to over the weekend. And after a search party was set up, he was found dead. Just one day. Done.
Unbelievable.
41 years old, excellent athlete, strong, healthy man, fully engaged father, excellent husband, just done, lights out, no warning. And
I'm so sorry. It's unthinkable.
No, it's unthinkable. I'm sitting here telling you this story, and it's somewhat like, did that really happen? It is. You hear it all the time. Life can change in an instant. You're never promised tomorrow. And we all hear it all the time. But until life is really pulled out from under you like that, it's hard to wrap your head around. And I see that even now, like it's hard to wrap my head around that was us, that is us. And it's hard for me even now. It's been almost a year and a half. I still find it hard to relate to other people. I think there's a huge identity crisis, at least for me, a huge identity crisis. Larry had been my best friend. I had been with him 25 years, married 18.
Wow.
Huge identity crisis. And it's not just losing your partner. You lose your co-parent. You lose your financial partner. You lose, somebody who made a lot of decisions in your life. You lose your board of directors, if you will. Right. And sort of that confidence to show up in the world.
Well, and you lose that security that I thought I had life all figured out. That wasn't supposed to happen. It loses that ungrounding of, well, what's the future look like now?
And that was totally my stance, Jory. I totally thought I had life figured out. Like, we had it nailed down. Yeah. And something like that happens, and I'm a lot softer today. I've got a huge perspective shift, and that realization that at the end of the day, the only thing we have control of is our mindset.
Yeah.
Because I did everything right in life. I got straight A's, went to college, I got a good job, I got a degree, I had 2.5 kids, I raised them right. We did everything right. never smoked, never did drugs. Like I literally did everything I was supposed to do in life, and still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And not that it doesn't matter, but that you don't get to control.
It doesn't predict the outcome.
What do you call? Yeah, right. No, it doesn't. But I had my mindset. And and
like you said, that is the one thing that you can control regardless of whatever's arising. And that's something that, that I teach in my work as well, that whether you're sitting in traffic or dealing with cancer, the tools are the same, right? It's how are you showing up?
This is so good, because that was the one thing that I started to recognize in the beginning stages of grief is I had just spent 8 years really mastering my mindset in the business capacity and working with my clients to strengthen, that mindset for business and putting yourself out there, pressing go live on Facebook, like these things. And I realized really quickly, like, this is universal.
Yeah.
Like what worked to grow my presence and my confidence, my esteem, my mindset for business success may very well get me out of this grief hole a lot quicker than maybe some that don't have some of that resilient and resolve that I had built in myself all those years. And, I remember, so my husband was found in the mountains about an hour and a half from town, from where we live. And so a friend drove me back home that day to get to the kids. And I'll never forget, like I had this, I don't know if it was a conversation with myself. I don't know if it was the universe talking to me. I don't know. I don't know what it was. But I had this like very clear notion that was, here you go. Girl, you got a choice. You either die on the mountain with Larry and you just never get over it, never get over him, never recover. You die right here with him, or you make a decision that you're going to walk into this next chapter. Don't have a clue what it's going to look like. Don't know what to expect, but you're going to walk into there and you're going to figure out how to live on this planet without him, happy, whole, and in love for you and your kids. And I just remember, like, it was a very deliberate, very conscious decision that day. I am choosing. I was 40 years old. I'm 40 years old. I'm far too young to roll over.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything more perfect than this man and this life, but I kind of now don't have that or any other prospects. So I better just walk in and figure out how to make. It's like, this is the hand I've dealt. What are you going to do with it? That's like, what are you going to do with this now? And that was a big mindset shift.
It's a really courageous one, because it would have been so easy to stay stuck in the story of I did everything right and look, the universe knocked me down. Or maybe the universe really doesn't have my back. Or maybe I'm not supposed to. Like all these things that we think the universe is so personal about. When I'm not really sure the universe is sitting and picking and pointing, call it God, call it spirit, call it universe, whoever, whatever we believe in. I don't think it's that personal to say, okay, I choose you to screw you over and knock you down and good luck getting back up. I just don't think it's that personal.
Yes.
And so when we can take away that the personal, aspect and say, this is, suffering is part of life. Tragedy is part of life. Life is full of unknowns. And okay, what do we do with this? That's where we get to.
It's a sobering thought. Wisdom. It's a sobering thought. Like, you didn't come here to have it easy, girl. And I think faith has a lot to do with it. I think a spirituality, faith in, I don't really care what you believe in, but a faith for me really carried me. And it gave me a lot of confidence in, okay, this is how it's going to shake out. Okay. But I'm going to believe that, and it's, again, belief is a choice. It's a mindset. I believe there's a universe that wants to see me succeed. I believe that, I don't know how, but this is going to work in my favor. I believe that this is going to lead me to goodness, happiness, wholeness, love, all these things that I've always wanted. And what can I take from the life that I led with Larry and move this forward? and live on behalf of both of us now. Like what can I take and be like, gosh, I literally had a love and a 25-year journey with a single person that most people will never get.
Yeah.
And I hope I get to do that again. I remember saying, like, I hope I get to do that again. Give me another shot. I'll do it better this time. Yeah.
Well, and then there's also the component of showing up for your kids to role model, how do we let life define us or not, and get stuck in, again, those limiting beliefs of, I was happy then and now it's done, or how do I have resiliency, or how do I manage adversity? How do I deal with hardship? I mean, all these things, it becomes bigger, I think, when you're also in front of children.
Yeah. And that was a responsibility I knew I had. And, we live in a time, in an era where our children are spoken to and explained things to, like maybe they weren't, 50 years ago. My father-in-law, Larry's father, lost his dad when he was 8, but you didn't talk to kids. I'll repeat that. But 50 years ago, kids weren't kept in the loop. They weren't included like they are now. And so, I was very aware of, this is my time to rise up and be the leader for these kids, because I either figure out how to get myself and my kids to happy, wholeness, and love, or my kids are still going to be struggling with this when they're 40. And I don't want that. Like, I knew it was in my charge to create a healthy, happy future for us all and teach them how to do it now.
Yeah.
So, that they weren't trying to fumble their way through life when they left my home.
Yeah. One of the things that's making me think of, and it's one of my favorite concepts, is the idea of and, right? Can we be sad and move on?
Mm-hmm.
Can we hold the space for our grief and still choose to be happy? That it's not a but, or it's not an or. So I think some people get stuck in the but or the or. Well, if I choose happiness, then I'm no longer honoring my past or my grief, when it both can exist.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt that is assumed. And I do love the psychology of life. So as I was a grieving widow, I was also an observer, a fascinated observer of a grieving widow in action. I'd go to therapy, and I'm getting therapy and also watching how I'm getting therapy. Right. And so, but, with my kids, Larry died in October. And so, a 2-semester school year, that, first semester was a rough one. Mm-hmm. And as we approached the second semester, I remember sitting the kids down and saying, this is a new semester. This is the semester, this is the part of life where we no longer say things like, I wish Daddy were here. This is no longer the season where we say, Dad should be here. This is the season where we say, wouldn't Dad have had a lot of fun at this with us? Wouldn't Dad have really liked this song? And, just making that line in the sand. This is the semester where we get out of bed every morning and go to school, no matter what. And, we have always had a family motto, the Quisels do the hard thing. And that was just something we kept repeating. Like, here we are again, the Quisels do the hard thing. The easy thing is to stay in bed. And let me be honest, Jory, we spend a lot of time in bed.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time in bed, and we spend a lot of time in shoulda, coulda, woulda, why.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that takes a lot of energy, and it gets no results. And my children have a mother who likes results and values productivity. Yeah. So the grief, there's a time and a place for grief, and it's a necessary process. But then there's a point, and you got to watch for this, when grief just becomes a thief. It steals your time. It steals your future. Mm-hmm. It steals your happiness. Presence.
Yeah.
It steals everything. And that's the line you got to watch for. And so I was always pushing me and my kids, to maybe step past that, step through it with it. It's a fine line. It really, truly is a fine line. But the goal was always, we're going into a future. We still can't see it. We have no idea what to expect now, but we are walking into a future that's happy, whole, and full of love. So what's one simple thing we can do today to get closer to that? Well, let's get dressed today, brush our teeth, maybe go for a walk. It starts there, right?
And let that be enough in that moment, and let that be okay.
Yeah. And then other days it's like, let's watch our language. Let's watch our language. There's no more wishing for what we can't change. It's a waste of energy. But
one of the things that is making me think about is, so much of my work is rooted in mindfulness practice, and one of the fundamental tenets is acceptance of what is. Mm-hmm. And I always have clients ask, well, what happens if I don't like what is? How do I accept what I don't like? And, my response is always, well, not accepting it doesn't make it go away. That resistance, that denial, that wishing, that hoping, those shoulds only make it bigger. That the irony and the paradox is the acceptance actually makes what you're dealing with more manageable.
Yeah. Here's what's here's what's really interesting, because there was both that, this is what we have now. You are a child now with no father. Okay. I am, a woman who is single now and widowed at 40. This is where we are. This is what we have. But also there is, aside from acceptance, I think even bigger than acceptance is willingness. Mm-hmm. And that for us was also a really big chapter. Very quickly after Larry died, this willingness to be happy, this willingness to heal, this willingness to move through grief at a fast pace for society, and a willingness to be open to what is to come. And this was like a very candid conversation I had in the bathtub one day with my dead husband and the universe. I was like, look, you two, I don't know what you got going on up there. I'm going to assume you're working for me, but I'm open to what you have ahead. And I actually want whatever's ahead. I want happiness. I want wholeness. I want love. Yeah. So can you bring me that, fellas? Cause I'm kind of, it was, I'm willing, I will do the work to be ready for whatever is coming next, whatever this chapter 2. And that willingness allowed me to step into the possibilities of new people in my life, new opportunities in my life. I think also, at some point, I kind of put my life on the table, everything's on the table. Some's going to stay with me. I realized that in loss, some of the things I used to do are going to go with Larry. Yeah. They are not going to come into this new life. And what works now, what is past, and what am I taking with me or not? Mm-hmm. And that was really big too, because I kept finding myself also wanting to go back to the woman I was. I got to get back to that disciplined woman. I got to get past to, that very driven by excellence woman. I got to get back to that. I kept saying, I just want to get back. I just want to get back. And she's gone too.
Right.
And I think
you got to be with who you are now there is no going back.
There's no going back even to who you were. Yeah. Because now that experience, and see, this is what I didn't know too, grief is grief is grief. Everybody's experiencing it. Some from loss, death, some from a divorce, some from a job, some from a failed launch. Grief is grief is grief. And I don't think I realized how many people around me understand and feel grief. Yeah. So this ability then to, be open that I have been changed by grief, and the things that I valued and were important there may or may not come with me in this on the other side of grief person. And so there was also a grief in myself for a long time too, when I realized that I didn't just lose a husband, I lost a life. Like how you operate in life. Yeah. I lost a life like that, daily operations. And I also lost myself. A piece of myself is gone and won't come back. And she can't, because that girl had never experienced something of that magnitude. And this one has.
During that time, how did you, because you had become so successful in your business and so much of that internet marketing, how did you manage to show up with authenticity in that time?
That was a struggle, I'm going to be honest. That was a real struggle. In the beginning, I did a lot of live video. I still continued a lot of live video. And I shared a lot about the grief process. And when looking back, I was still in that shock of, let's just keep with the day-to-day maintenance, like just keep plugging on. Like I can just, work myself out of this. And, but when reality started setting in and that identity crisis set in, do I even like the businesses that I created? Will I ever go back to them? Do I have the capacity for them? Those sort of things came in. Authenticity got really tricky, because I was one way online and a different way off. And to be more specific, I was one way online and something different in my closet. Mm. And that was a very, very uncomfortable period. And I struggled a lot with it. Yeah. At the end of the day, my online presence never was for me. Like if I look at big picture, it's about me, about my life experiences. It's about what I know and teach, but it's not for my benefit. It's for the benefit of other people, right? The people that I serve. In business, you call that your clients, right? But big picture. And so I had to remember, this isn't about me anyway. So what are the messages that they need to hear? What are luckily, I had been creating content for some time that I was able to repurpose quite a bit in that time period. But, we all need, I think the learning lesson for me is you can't just keep churning and burning. And I think we always, not always, but I think it can be expected that in our lifetime we will have multiple identity crises. Of course.
How could we not? How could we not?
Yes.
Well, and I saw, I know there's more to your journey, but I saw a Facebook post of yours, I think just a couple of days ago, where you speak to this, like who you see online is not who I always am, and it's not supposed to be, and that's okay. I mean, that was the biggest takeaway of that post, right? If I recall. Yeah. There's a lot I see online, so it's hard to remember always exactly, but that one really stuck out to me because it was really vulnerable in that authenticity to say, I'm showing up authentic, and that's not the whole picture, and that's not the whole story, and you don't need to show the whole story to still be authentic. Yeah. And it makes me think of a lot of Brene Brown, like even what you're talking about reminds me of Brene Brown's wholehearted living, but of someone has to earn the right to your whole story.
Yeah, and there may be one or two.
Right? We can show up as courageous leaders and still not give the full picture, but that doesn't mean we're not being honest or authentic. Yeah. We're sharing what's in service of the work. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a big lesson. And I think that, when we start talking about authenticity, people think, well, I've got to tell everybody the whole story all the time. And that just doesn't serve many people, Right. So, that time frame, was challenging in general, but you compound that with the fact that I am an online personality. Mm-hmm. And that is where my business is. And but learning to, and even just having the patience with yourself, giving yourself the grace and the time to unravel, that new identity, let that new identity be born and stretch its legs and, spend time, on the planet to even get comfortable with it. And that, for somebody like me, I say somebody like me, but I do like excellence. I like results. I like, can we get in, get out? Like, let's make this happen, And, sitting in incongruency was painful, but also necessary. It was a necessary part of that evolution.
Absolutely. And I think completely also humanizes you as this public persona and creates a lot of compassion for all of our grief. Like you said, there's so many different kinds of grief that may pause our momentum at times. And I think it makes you really relatable. Because I think this is one of the challenges with online personas, that we put all this out there and we want to be a role model, we want to be a teacher, we want to be a leader, we want to, emulate a way or a framework to reach that success. And yet that can sometimes make people feel like, well, she's got it better than me, I can't do that. So that humanness makes the struggle real, for lack of better words, not to sound cheesy about it, but the struggle is real.
Yeah.
And to name that authenticity, I think helps you connect better with the people who are really connected to you.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so you put this intention out to the universe. You're in the bathtub talking to your dead husband in the universe, and you put this intention out there. And then what did you do with that? Because that's a pretty big ask. Hey, universe, give it to me again. What do you got for me?
Yeah. Careful what you ask for, especially when you mean it. Careful what you ask for, especially when you mean it. You talk about manifesting. Like, bring me on the show. We'll talk about manifesting. Like, I manifested, what became my second husband in that bathtub that day. And I co-conspired, and, with the universe and with my late husband, somebody to come into our life and help be part of that happy wholeness and love. And that was challenging too. Like, this man kind of entered my life in the way that he did. And it was fast, and it was like, it was just fast, and it was incredible, honestly. But then, there's a little bit of messiness, right?
Sure.
You have a grieving woman, and a man who's, eager to be in love, and you've got kids on both ends, and how that shakes out. But the one thing that I get, the biggest takeaway for me in all of this is willingness. Is a willingness. Like, I was willing to love again, but more importantly, I was willing to be loved. And I was just asked, it was just last month, I was at Funnel Hacking Live with Russell Brunson, and he had asked me to come and speak on his stage about some of this very thing. Like, how do you walk through life and pivot when, shit hit the fan, And, I talked about this willingness, but the willingness requires a letting go.
Yes.
And I don't know that the people understand that. Like, a willingness to walk into a new life sounds wonderful. I walked into a new life, and I walked into a new man and a new relationship. But in that, I had to make a conscious decision to let go. Mm-hmm. And the letting go is, I love you. I loved this life. Thank you, Larry, for everything you taught me, everything you gave me. And I now am turning my life over here. And there's guilt associated with that. There's fear associated with that. But there's also so much excitement. Yeah. There's so much excitement when you let go of. It is. It's when you let go of what isn't there. You have to let go of what's not there. You have to, the unknown can be super scary, but oh my gosh, it could be anything. It could be everything you ever wanted.
Yeah.
And that piece of my story, that piece of this journey has just been almost electrifying.
Yeah.
To be grateful and thankful for everything I have learned up until now, been given up until now, and be thankful and grateful for everything I have lost up until now. And I am such a better wife. My capacity to love is so deep, so rich, so amplified, like I've never experienced before. And what my kids are gaining, not what they're living without, but what they're gaining and the richness of their life. Those are things that we would not experience had we not have an acceptance, a willingness to let go, a willingness to grab forward. And it's a beautiful place to be at this moment for us.
I love it. It's, so much of what you're speaking to, I feel in such alignment with. And while very different, I had a little bit of a similar journey of I got divorced from my high school sweetheart who I'd been with since I was 13. And got divorced at 36 because something wasn't working. And where I used to see the future as fear because it was unknown, my whole mindset shift was when I saw the future and the unknown as where possibility resided. And once I made that shift from fear to possibility, it was like I was unstoppable. But that's the mindset shift you're talking about, right? Like that's the choice we have. Because I could have kept with the mindset of divorce looks like my mother who never remarried, who didn't have much money, who was alone, who was, kind of still talked like she lived in the past so much. And I knew that that wasn't going to work for me. But it's a powerful shift to see the unknown is awesome because you get to create it. And I just got engaged 2 months ago. And the joke is I manifested him as well. Like I wrote it all down. And our joke is he's only 4 years old because he didn't exist before I manifested him. But like part of that manifestation is letting go of attachment to it. Saying I release this. I set these intentions because I believe in my worth and my possibility. And then I release it. Because if we're holding it too tight, then, it's like we hold that grip so tight, then we're not allowing.
Yeah. There's just so much richness to life when you are expecting it to show up.
Yeah.
And, when you were talking about you could have fallen into that like victim of, that's a very alluring pull. And that's something I really, really learned in grief. That victim pull is very strong. It's very easy to fall into. And it's very seductive. It's very comfortable. It's very easy. It gives you an
identity too.
Yeah, it gives you an out. You get an out of living life.
Yeah.
You get an excuse for not to move forward, an excuse not to grow up, an excuse not to, not to be happy. It's very
not to
seductive.
have to show up and do the work anymore. Yeah.
Yes. But the work, the work it's where the magic is. It's just, I would love to just wrap my arms around, those who haven't yet seen that yet. And for me, I very quickly saw that this was going to be okay. This is going to be okay. I don't know how, I can't even fathom it, but it's going to be okay.
You believed it was. So that's partly what allowed it to become okay.
Yes. But society sees widow and they're like, there is the painted picture of the widow and what is to come of her. And something like 60% are financially ruined after losing a spouse. I mean, the statistics for female widows is staggering. But on the flip side of that, there are widows that are crushing life. Yeah. Crushing life. And I wanted those examples. I see what the movies paint. I see what society expects to happen. Show me the widows that are crushing it at life. I want their roadmap. That's what I wanted. It's the same in business. There are people that flop in business, and there are people that go from nothing to huge. I want that roadmap. Show me how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same when I started network marketing. I see a lot flopping. I want to be the mom here full time, crushing it in business from my dining room table. Show me the women who do that. I want their roadmap, right?
Yeah.
It's just whose belief system are you subscribing to?
Yeah. And it's easier said than done. I mean, you know, I talk with clients all the time. I mean, I had a couple clients today in which we really examine where did those core limiting beliefs come from? Because they're often rooted somewhere, right? They don't just come out of nowhere, and they're very old belief systems that unless we go ahead and challenge them, they're going to keep showing up in the different areas of our lives.
Yes.
And, you know, so even if we have the roadmap, we still have to take the courage and the belief that I can walk that roadmap. Because just because you have it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And have you ever heard of the spiritual teacher, Dan Millman? Do you know who he is?
No.
Okay. I'm going to have to turn you on to some of his books.
Yeah.
I have been on retreat with him 3 separate times. And his most well-known book is called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And that was written back in the 80s. And that was, you know, for many, including myself, an entree into spiritual awareness. But my favorite book of his is called The Laws of Spirit. And he writes in a very fantastical sort of way that makes you believe that he is the main character, that what's happening is actually what's happening, because he writes in a way that you believe him. But in The Laws of Spirit, he walks out his backyard and into the hills, and he meets an old wise sage. And he even says, if your older, wiser self showed up as a guide, would you go on the journey with what they were there to teach you? And so this old wise sage is really his higher self, taking him on a 3-day journey in the hills, teaching him the laws of the universe. And my favorite one is the law of action. And they come to a fork in the road up in the hills, and she says to him, which path are you going to take? And he points to one of them, and he says, I'm going to take this one. She asks again, which path are you going to take? And he points, I'm taking this one. She asks again, he starts getting frustrated. He points, I'm going to take this one. She asks again. He now is like really annoyed, like, I'm going to take this one. She asks again. He takes a step forward, and she goes, oh, I see you're taking this one, right? So we could be at that fork road all the time and point, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But until we take that step forward, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's so true. And I think about that all the time. So, you know, we can have the manifestation, we could set the intentions, we can get the mindset aligned, we can have the roadmap handed to us. And yet we got to take that step forward. Yeah.
And that's the true vulnerability. Like, that is the true vulnerability.
And the courage.
You know, oh my gosh, the courage. Because the truth is, it's sloppy, it's messy, and you never feel like you know what you're doing. It often feels out of control. It's like the story of my life the last, 18 months. Never once have I felt like I got this. I know what I'm doing. Like, it's just this very continually, sort of hazy, I kind of going in this direction. I got a vague view of what it looks like, but the day-to-day steps are unclear, unsure, easily shakable.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, easily shakable. And, but that's anything.
And yet I have the courage to step forward, even if the ground's unshakable. I could still do that.
I had a conversation with a client the other day who, interestingly enough, just lost her husband 5 weeks ago. Mm. And we were talking about this idea of personal trust. There's a whole lot of trust in yourself. And I think sometimes that piece is missing, the inability to take that action, like accept, willingness, action. If you don't have that trust in yourself, trust in your decisions, trust that you can figure it out, it's going to be harder to like lift that foot and put it down one step in front.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much that goes into that. But at the same time, you don't have to have the answers. You don't even have to have a roadmap. You just have to be willing to step forward.
Yeah.
And shake it out when you get there.
Yeah. I love it. It's so inspiring, and it's so, I like I said, I've loved watching you online because you make it really relatable. And that's something that I think as a leader, and, you know, I put myself in that same category as showing up in that authenticity to say, hey, I don't always have it figured out, and I don't need to have it always figured out, but I trust the process. And I also trust that life is unfolding as it should. So that gives me the freedom to choose my response to whatever is in front of me, or my reaction to it in a way that's not going to serve me. And at the end of the day, I get to choose.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's where the freedom lies. That's where the juice is. And when I was in therapy years ago, going through my divorce, my therapist had said to me, he goes, you need to get a magic wand. He said, you have really powerful energy and you make shit happen, and you need to be careful where you point that energy. So I did. I went out and I bought a magic wand, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure it's pointing me in the right direction. So I am always in alignment with where I want my energy to go, because, you know, what's my favorite phrase? I'm getting it wrong. Energy flows where intent, or is that right? Energy flows where intention goes.
Where intention goes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I find that so powerful that, you know, if we aren't clear on that energy, you know, just be aware, because to me, energy is powerful. You know, and
very powerful. That's such a great visual too. You know, that you know, be careful where you point that wand. Energy is powerful. And that's energy that you're expelling, that you're using. Is it where you want it to go?
Yeah. And if you're not aware of it, then you don't have the ability to be responsible for some of the outcomes, right?
Yes.
Because if you're not aware of what you're pointing at, then you can't be surprised when you're getting something that, you know, isn't serving you. It's like, well, where were you pointing that wand?
Ah, so good. Oh my goodness. All my kids are getting wands. Mom is going out shopping tonight.
So I literally, for years, I had the wand on the dashboard of my car. And I even at Disneyland had gotten a little Disneyland pin of Tinkerbell with some pixie dust on it. And I had the pixie dust attached to the wand. I'm like, I need all the extra fairy energy I can get.
That's so good. That's so good.
So I loved talking with you. How can people find you? What's the best way for people to follow you, to connect with you?
Well, you know, I'm over 40, so Facebook's where I'm at.
Yes.
But I'm also on Instagram. You can find me at Heather Quisel. I also I have a Facebook group in which I serve coaches, leaders, business owners on strategies for both high income and high impact. And that's at heatherquisel.com/FB group, as in Facebook group.
Wonderful. Well, Heather, it's been such a pleasure talking with you since we've had this schedule. I really looked forward to it. And it really, I knew we would have not only a great conversation, but I really enjoyed hearing your journey. Thank you for vulnerably sharing it. And I'm so happy that you found happiness and love, because we are all wired for love and connection. It is our birthright to be that. So I'm so happy that the universe conspired to have your back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun interacting with you.
It was wonderful. All right. Well, you be well, and we'll be sure to stay in touch.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat. Visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.